Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up. Hey there, it's Jordan, your host. If you've been loving the conversations on Changing the Game, I'm excited to introduce something new, the Nobody Cares Club, a show about building the life you actually want without worrying so much about what everyone else thinks. We're talking confidence, wellness, identity, relationships, and the reminder that nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. So stop waiting, stop overthinking, and get ready to be inspired to go after your dreams. Search Nobody Cares Club wherever you listen, launching summer 2026. Welcome back to the show. Today's guest is Chelsea Poppens. She's a former Division I basketball player at Iowa State University and professional athlete, including time in the WNBA. But Chelsea's impact did not stop when she stepped off the court. She transitioned into a sales and RevOps role, now serves as the COO of DayCloud, is the founder of CKP Athletics, a purpose-driven organization focused on high-level basketball training and life skills beyond the court. She co-hosts the Champion This podcast and is also an investor in League One Volleyball. She has quite the resume. She is someone who continues to evolve, lead, and build, proving that high performance doesn't end with sport. Welcome, Chelsea. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love the intro.
I love having you here because it's like when I have to rattle off an intro and I'm starting to get winded, I'm like, that's a good thing because you have quite the resume. So I'm excited to dive into your background. Lots of cool themes, non-linear paths we can take on the show today. So I'd love if you could just lay the groundwork for us. What were you like growing up that set you off on this competitive path?
Yeah, I would say growing up in a small town on a farm really set me up to kind of be like my resume says, like diverse in a lot of different areas. And the work ethic that I learned growing up on a farm and in a small town, you really got to fight for what you want. And I think that's what got me to play at like a high level. And I was a tomboy. I was always outside doing something. I had two siblings, so I was always active with them, playing sports or doing shenanigans until the sun goes down, as our timeline would say. Like, your parents don't want you back until until the sun's down. But yeah, I mean, I think what shaped me was my community, hardcore, and it got me to where I am today.
I love that. Community is so huge, and it is so consequential on how we grow up, how we shape. But I'm interested, where did you grow up in Iowa? Because you said I didn't know you grew up on a farm.
Yep, Applington Parkersburg. It's a very small town outside of Cedar Falls. So okay. UNI is the closest college town. There's a D1 Panthers.
Yep.
And not a lot of people know where it is. It's right in the middle of the heart of Iowa. So
I'm actually familiar. I played at Wichita State, and we used to be in the Valley together. Yeah. So I've been to UNI many, many times. From Minnesota. My husband's from Omaha, so I feel like Iowa. We're a bit familiar.
Yeah, you've driven by.
Yes, and I actually had a teammate that was from Marshalltown, Iowa, and so also a farm girl. So pretty familiar with the farm girl lifestyle.
Yeah, are you a farm girl?
I'm not. Just went and visited my friend often on her farm, and it was, we had a great time. Like you said, no rules. Stay outside till the sun goes down type of vibe.
On the streets.
Yeah, exactly. How did you start playing basketball then? What brought you to the sport?
I think in a small town, we do a lot of different sports. So I did soccer, volleyball, basketball. My sister is really good at soccer. My brother did sports as well. But I think in a small town, you just try everything. You have the time, you kind of shift seasons, which is a blessing and I guess nowadays a curse, because most people silo themselves into one sport. But I'm super thankful to be able to do all of that. And basketball was just one of those that I stuck with and ultimately made the choice to play AAU basketball for All Iowa Attack. They kind of have a monopoly over Iowa. And that I had to make a choice and make some sacrifices along the way, and like remove some sports from the docket. I played softball. I cut that and soccer took a back seat for a very long time too. Obviously I'm too tall. I wouldn't have had much of a career in that. So I'm thankful that I've had to made those sacrifices to go after basketball. Loved being competitive, loved the physicality. And so basketball and volleyball were kind of my two like favorites.
Yeah. How tall are you, Chelsea?
6'2".
Okay. Yeah. Were you an outside in volleyball, or what position did you play?
Middle and outside.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. I was low, so I don't have the height that you have. I wish I was taller.
Versatile. You were versatile.
Versatile in the back row. That's about it. I couldn't do much else. But was going to Iowa State then kind of a dream come true for you, being like the hometown kid that got to go to the big university there?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible to be able to play basketball in college. I will say this is like kind of embarrassing. Growing up, I didn't know who was good or what colleges were good. So I'd get letters in the mail and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. But I had so many different colleges with their applications they send you or interests that they send you. And I ultimately didn't really look at a whole lot of colleges. I don't think I wish I was more educated. I wish like a lot of kids these days, but I think that's the thing of like growing up in a small town, media, not really covering women's sports back in the day and not having that exposure at a young age as much as kids do now. And I'm so grateful. Don't get me wrong. I am so grateful to be able to play at Iowa State. It like obviously set me up for success after playing there. And I love Coach Finley. I love the staff, and it's a great place to play close to my small town. So I got all that community support and love. But I wish I was more educated back when I was younger, because when people ask these questions, I'm like, yeah, like they'll be like, where did you visit? And I'm like, I didn't really visit a lot of places.
The game has changed so much, or women's sports in general, I'll say, has changed so much. Like we're from about the same generation of the time in college sports. And yeah, I mean, we just didn't have the media attention to it. It was just a different world. You could just be like, yeah, this is cool. I don't really know. Like, I'm not exposed to all this stuff. So yeah, wild times. So you played at Iowa State. You had a great career there. When did you start thinking that you were, hey, I might have a professional career? When did those feelings kind of start?
I always wanted to play in the WNBA. My parents will joke around that I would write essays in middle school that I was going to play in the WNBA, even though you couldn't really watch it. But I always had those ambitions. I don't think it really clicked in college until I think my sophomore year, I really started taking off. I really started focusing on basketball. Freshman year, you're kind of all over the place, learning how to prioritize, how to make sacrifices. But sophomore year, I found my groove, and my junior and senior year were also pretty great. And I was an All-American. I had some incredible teammates, and we just had like a really good season. And I think those are kind of the seasons in college where I was like, I could play at an elite level. And even at the time, I was just doing my thing and working hard. And I knew that I was never going to be the best player out there, but I was going to outwork anybody that I came into, like anybody out there. And so, yeah, I guess it kind of just, I don't think you really realize it until the moment of like getting drafted. You're like, oh, this is actually happening. And so that was kind of my aha moment.
What was that experience getting drafted like?
It's a lot different than what it is today. Today, there's so much more celebration involved, but we were all just hanging out in our little scout room where we watch film and, watching it on television. And I got a call, and awesome. They're like, you're going to go to, Seattle Storm. And I mean, it was really exciting, but it's funny because I'll have stories with other athletes like Kayla Alexander. She was at like a life group where she got the call that she was getting drafted. So people our age didn't have the type of celebration, social media, like phenomenon moments. And so it was really just like me, my teammates, my coaches, and getting a call.
Yeah, the NIL has really changed that, probably, and social media just in general. Like, it is way more in the public light now, for sure. So when you got drafted by the Seattle Storm, I want to just hear a little bit about your professional career, because you played in the WNBA, you've played overseas. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so Seattle Storm was incredibly stressful. I was there for training camp for like up until the last day. And the only reason they ended up cutting me was because the other gal was like 2 inches taller, and Brian Agler didn't really play freshman. And I'm like, at the time I was so sad. I was crying. I was a big baby, because you feel like your dreams are crushed. And
it's got to be so hard to have your dream be crushed by something you can't control too.
Yeah. And I'm like, it had to happen, because what I experienced at San Antonio was like way different. Like the team chemistry, it was a lot of Big 12 players, a lot of people that I had played against in college, and Dan Hughes, incredible human. He was so nice and still is an incredible human. I see him at the Aces alumni reunion that we have. We had this last year. I saw him there. And so it's just nice to be able to connect with players that you've been able to play against, and everyone was so welcoming. And I am so thankful that I got brought back into San Antonio to play with them for the remainder of their season.
It's awesome. It's interesting that you had that experience with Seattle and having that heartbreak, but then finding the community or the environment that really helped you thrive better. Like, it was like, I'm just a firm believer that everything does happen for a reason, and some of like our biggest heartbreaks can set us up for something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, God's at work in the things that you can't see, and God's plan was far better than my plan. Even if I wanted it to work out at Seattle Storm, I probably would have not played the entirety of the season. In San Antonio, I actually got playing time, and Becky Hammond was injured at the time, but I still got to hang out with her a little bit. So like, there's incredible experiences that I never imagined for myself.
Yeah, I think what you said, you hit the nail on the head. Like, even your plans are sometimes not what is the best route for you, and God has something better. I totally agree with that. I look back on my own playing career and think about that too. The worst heartbreaks led me to exactly where I was supposed to be. So beyond your career at San Antonio, what happened then? Because you have like 6 years of playing overseas after that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I mean, more heartbreaks. So anybody who doesn't know, the WNBA season runs over the summer until like September. And then everyone usually goes overseas. So I went over to Australia. I had a great season there. We were one of the top teams. And 4 weeks before I would have ended up going home, I tore my ACL. And so I had to stay there, rehab, recover. And so I missed training camp. I didn't go back to San Antonio, but they still had my contract. And so I did some rehab. I went over to Poland to prove my health and kind of like get back into rhythm, get back into practice. And I found out that I needed another surgery after 4 months of being there. And so I needed a microfracture surgery to stimulate growth in my bones and blood. And so I went back to the States, had that surgery, and once again, I wasn't going to be ready for a training camp. And so it's kind of like you kind of get the emotional depression, anxiety, isolation that's involved in the rehab, the recovery. And not to say that my whole career is laced with trials and trauma, but I did end up like tearing my ACL again in that 6 years. Going through 2 Category 5 hurricanes in Puerto Rico. But I am so incredibly grateful for the times that I had in Poland, Switzerland, Sweden, Australia, Puerto Rico, and Lebanon in those 6 years. Wow. And to be able to like have teammates in different countries and to be able to experience different cultures coming from a girl who grew up in a small town of Iowa with, not a lot of different range in languages, a different style of culture. And so I'm incredibly grateful for my time playing, even if it was laced with some injuries and emotional toil.
It's awesome that you're able to look back on that time and have that gratitude, because I think like when you're going through it, sometimes it can be like you're in the trenches. Like, that would be really, really hard. And yeah, you've had an amazing experience, but like all the adversity you've had to overcome, how did you get through those moments, like when you were in those trenches?
Sometimes it was just getting like to the next day, with family, with friends, support, talking to people, actively reaching out, because I mean, a lot of times when you are going through something, you want to like close off, you want to disconnect so you can control the controllable. And I did those things, but I'm so thankful that like my family and my friends were there to help guide me. I had people take me in at Iowa State, so that I could use their facilities and still do things that the team was doing. So I could like use their gym space, because there's things you take for granted as a player when you're at a university, in college, and the way they treat you and the resources that you have that you don't always have at the pro level. Yes, some universities will say like, you're welcome to come back, but it's not always that way. You're not always welcome to come back to a program and use the resources that you had while you were there. And I'm thankful that Iowa State was.
Yeah. It sounds like community really has been, like you mentioned it right away at the beginning of our conversation, community has really been your anchor, it seems like, in a lot of times in your life. I think that's just awesome. Did you get that vibe like when you were visiting Iowa State, that it was like, hey, this is like a very welcoming community? Or when did you really discover that? Because I'm just trying to think for maybe athletes who are listening and they want to find that community, like when did that start to show up for you? Or when did you get that feeling about the areas that you were, or the environments you were in?
I think as an athlete visiting colleges, you got to ask questions. You got to talk to players there. It's a different environment than it is when I was there. It's not, the transfer portal is a thing now. You're not getting players that have been there for a long time, all the time. And at least with Iowa State, their staff has been there, the same staff, for the longest time. I don't even know how many years, but they have not shifted the coaching staff that's been there. There's been like a few ebbs and flows as far as video team, but the primary staff has been there this whole time. And so, when you have that type of legacy and tradition, and there's always that cycle and tradition, and coming from Iowa, that like in the Midwest, we rally around our sports. We love our people. We love our colleges. We love our players, and we'll support them. We're diehards, roll clones. But I think it's just one of those Midwestern things that you don't always get in those bigger schools. Like if you go to Miami or if you go to California, you might not get that type of like community support or just like the fandom that Iowa State gets, because you can get 10,000 fans in the stadium, and you'll travel to, I won't name drop any colleges, but you'll go traveling on the road, and it'll be an empty stadium that you're playing in. And at least at Iowa State, you know what you're going to get. The fans are going to be loud every time you play at Hilton, and they're going to have your back no matter what.
You're better than me, Chelsea, because I would have been name dropping schools.
Yeah, so. I was like, Mizzou.
That is so funny. No, like literally the same experience on the volleyball side. Like you said, the Midwest does rally around their schools, like Wichita State. There's nothing else to do in Wichita besides love on the university. So we had a lot of that support. And you're right. Like you go to other places sometimes, or just my sister played Division I volleyball as well in the Big Ten, the Pac-12 when it still existed. And yeah, sometimes you don't see that at certain environments. So
sometimes you got to create your own energy.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love it. That's good. At what point during your pro career, I mean, you overcame so much adversity. When did you start thinking like, I need to start thinking about maybe what's next in my life, or how did that time feel to you?
I think I've always been a learn more type of person, and trying to better myself in a lot of different spaces and arenas, and constantly educating myself, and trying to be better than the person I was yesterday. And so when I was rehabbing my knee for the second time, I rehabbed it down in Florida. And so I got to thinking about doing my master's in business admin, because I think business skills and education goes a long ways. I got my bachelor's in kinesiology, and I wanted to do physical therapy, but I kind of timed the the baseline courses out because I played for, 5 years and they expire after 5 years. And so like business skills never go away and they can help you in the long run. And so I started my master's in business admin through University of Florida, Warrington College of Business. And it's designed for people who work full-time jobs, families. And so it was flexible with my pro career. And so after I rehabbed and I went back to playing, I finished up my degree, and then I ultimately just kind of was ready for that next chapter and the next challenge, and setting myself up and like proving to myself that like, yeah, my pro career wasn't what I wanted it to be, but that next season of my life is still going to be just as beneficial and just as amazing as the one that I dreamed up when I was like in middle school. And so it's scary. And there's players right now, like retired players right now, that still haven't found their next dream or their next goal. And it's sad because everyone goes through the identity crisis after they put the ball down. And if you don't lean into your identity outside of an athlete, or if you haven't been building yourself up outside of being just a basketball player, I think you're at loss, or you get a little more lost than you would. Like I was doing my degree in lieu of like retiring so that I could set myself up for my career after, my life after. And I didn't know what that career would look like. I was just as clueless as everybody else. But I think you just have to be kind of thinking futuristically as an athlete, because your body isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. Like you have to find the thing outside of your sport. And I think it's a lot easier said than done. Like I knew I wasn't going to play pro after volleyball. There wasn't pro at the time. I wasn't going to try to go overseas. And I was actually ready to be done with my sport. But I almost think because we're in our sport when our brain is like still developing, and it's like all you're doing, like, yeah, you're going to school, but I mean, it's majority of your life.
Yeah.
And it's your whole social life too, your teammates. So like you can retire and you could be like, yeah, I've been prepping for this, but it still hits you hard and fast sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Like you got that built-in teammate, that built-in community with the team, every team that you play on. and then you're in life after, and you're like, how do I find my people? How do I find my tribe?
How did you find your tribe when you transitioned out?
It took a while. Yeah. I think especially in the Midwest, you'll understand this. It's like very conservative. Depending on when your career ended, a lot of your friends are at a different life milestone. They've had their careers for me, they've had their careers for like 6 to 10 years or whatever it may be. And they had kids and they had their marriages, and I was retiring. I was single, no kids, not much of a, career resume. So I felt like I was starting behind and I was starting from scratch, and it's not that. Like it feels like that, but you just got to understand that you have a different life trajectory and different life experiences. And that was kind of the issue of the connecting point, finding people with shared experiences when I retired and moved back to Iowa. And it's come a long ways. I found ways to connect with people on different things. I think when you have a diverse background, you can find diverse ways to connect with anybody and everybody. And so that's been very beneficial. And I always lean towards people who are doing ambitious things, or women in business having ambitious goals and are driven. And I've thankfully been able to find those people.
Yeah. I think finding your community does take a long time after sport. I would absolutely agree with that. It took me a while. And I think you mentioned something earlier about how no one really knows what they want to do after they're done. Like I used to think everyone had it all figured out.
Did you
know? No, I didn't know. I had no idea, but I used to think everyone else had it all figured out.
5-year plan.
It feels that way. And I think also like maybe social media really makes it feel that way. Like everyone's got something going for them. Everyone's figuring it out. And here I feel like my life has been kind of on a standstill as I figure out like what direction do I go from here? I think we as athletes can put a lot of pressure on ourselves in that moment because we've always had something to work for. And then it's like, okay, now I don't know what I'm good at or what I'm good for. So I'm with you. Like, no one has it all figured out. It took me a long time to accept that. And it took me a long time to just understand, hey, maybe these first couple roles I take out of college or my career, they don't have to be the lifelong thing, but it's going to teach me skills that I need in this next chapter. And I feel like that's kind of what you did in your career too, because you threw in, you jumped into some sales roles, rev ops, and now you're a COO, which is sick. So can you just walk us through what that period was like, kind of finding your footing in the professional world?
Yeah, I think what you said is incredibly important, because when you set the ball down or whatever you end up doing with your career, at whatever stage you're in, it's more about finding what you don't want to do. It's finding out what you don't enjoy doing. And that takes trial and error, and it takes failing, and it takes doing things. So for me, I retired, and the company I went to, Meredith Corporation, I think the People Inc. now, they've changed. They're a great company. Everyone I know that works there, they're awesome. But I went into like a video rev ops role that is all data people. So I went from traveling the world and being super social and into a role where nobody played sports, and everyone's kind of a little bit introverted because it's like data heavy. And I did well there, but I think it kind of killed me inside, to be completely honest, at that time, because it wasn't what I was used to. I didn't have my community built up either. And I think I just needed to be, it was the right role for me to learn different skill sets, like you said, the data skill sets, the RevOps skill sets, and to dip my toe into something and figure out what I don't like. And then I left that company right before COVID. And I was kind of kicking myself in the shin because I left right before, COVID shut things down and everyone got unemployment. So I was unemployed before COVID, all that even happened. And so before that, I was training kids in basketball with CKP Athletics, diving into that some more. And that whole year of COVID, I was like, who am I? Like, why I'm unemployed, like highly marketable, who wants this, as I'm figuring this out. And it's so funny because that year, really, that's where I met my husband. We did all the domestic things over COVID. And I don't know if that would have happened if other things became about, because I was contemplating, can I go back to basketball? I could just go back, right? I still got it. And I'm so thankful that I didn't, because my energy and my mood was dictated by how my body felt, and my body wasn't feeling good. And I was just trying to push open a door that God was trying to close on me. And ultimately, COVID, meeting my husband, and all the positive things that came from that year, even though it seemed pretty, like a purgatory state for me. And there's a lot of turmoil. That was great, because I ended up finding a different career at the end of the year in marketing, a little more creative business mix that I enjoy. And with the company that I am at now, so I started in sales, I moved to project management, and now I'm in as a COO, and our CEO brought me on because she's like, you care about the company as much as I do. And I think that's an athlete trait too, is we know how to be passionate about things that we care about, and we know how to give it our all. And so that really, being an athlete and those soft skills that you learn being an athlete, playing on teams and being a team player, I think contributed so much to where I am today.
Yeah. It's funny you talked about that little COVID stint. I just can relate to that so much, Chelsea. I feel like we have very similar trajectories in our career, because I was in a soul-sucking job right before COVID, and I put in my notice.
And you're not going to name drop, because we don't want them to hear this.
Right. I won't name drop, but it was genuinely terrible. So I will say that. And if they want to put the dots together, that's fine. But I put in my notice right before. I was so happy to be done. And then it was boom, COVID happened.
You're I could have just waited a little bit longer and gotten paid.
Yep, exactly. And so I did the same thing kind of over that summer, was what am I going to do? I tried to like find myself a little bit more. I started working out at Lululemon. I taught yoga. I taught spin. Like it just
anything and everything.
Yes, anything and everything, but still with that guideline of like, I need to find a community. I need to learn about how I can use my soft skills in the next chapter. And like you said, it put you on this career trajectory that ended up being very, very beneficial in the end. And you kind of joke, but you're like, all this is so marketable. I would love for you to just give a little advice for any listeners on I'm a former athlete. I don't know how to market my skills in this next chapter. What would you tell them?
It is really just taking like the skills and the talents that you have and reframing them for whatever that next position is. Because we do have skills. We've been marketing ourselves, especially in this day and age, marketing ourselves in different ways. And like we are our own business, especially with NIL. What do we bring to the table? Like whether that's your like social media schedule or social media presence and the things you're doing on there, any philanthropy, the things you care about. As far as basketball, we've been doing interviews probably, if you played collegiate, probably for a very long time. So public speaking.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just reframing what skills you have to meet the job that you're going into. And to be honest, a lot of companies want athletes because of those soft skills, no matter what like age or season you're in, because they know that you're going to work hard. They know that you care about the goals and the dreams that you have. And they know that like that work ethic is going to be there. And typically if you're an athlete, you have at least like communication, you know how to communicate, specifically if you're on like a team, just reframing those things. I say marketing yourself in a different way.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you're clearly we've had years of experience, but you're someone that is very obviously like comfortable marketing yourself, comfortable talking about your experience. You've done it a ton, and you have your podcast, Champion This. So what inspired you to start podcasting? How did you get into that avenue?
Yes. So that was, I always kind of dabbled with the thought of podcasting. You just don't know what with. And with like the co-host I had now, she played in Switzerland on a team against me at the same time. And so she's also a retired pro. And so we were just constantly like meeting cool athletes with great stories and even just like some creators too. And so I think both of us at the heart of us have this goal of like sharing people's stories and elevating what they're doing and being able to find people that want to build or build up what they're doing. And so Champion This is we're inspiring or bringing on athletes and entertainers to give our listeners and inspire them by the works that they're doing and the impact they're driving in their community and the world. So some of our people like Nafisa Collier talked about Unrivaled. We've had some MLB players, some Major League Soccer players, NFL players, and people talking about their foundation. We've just had a massive range. We've had a NASA astronaut talking about his experience and just sharing really cool stories of people doing cool things. And because ultimately we want to inspire other people to do that too. Even if you feel like you are just a normie out there, you can do like whatever you want to do and you can have the impact that you want to have in whatever area that you want to do. You just got to do it. You just got to activate, and you have to have the confidence in yourself to do it. Even if people around you don't feel like they do.
Yeah. Wow. I absolutely love that. I love podcasting for this reason too, because you just learn so much from other people, and it's just amazing to hear different life experiences. So our listeners also need to go listen to Champion This, because I know there's some amazing lessons there. And you are just, Chelsea, you are so multifaceted. I think it's really cool how you have your job as a COO. You're a podcast host. You have CKP Athletics. You are also a color analyst for Iowa State, right? Or on ESPN?
Yep.
Yes. So that is all, it's very aspirational to me, honestly. I think it's cool how you kind of just created your own brand in the professional world out there. How did you, I guess, really quick detour, like you started CKP, you're a color analyst, like how did you break into those spaces too? Or what was it like founding your company?
So the color analyst stuff I was approached for that through Iowa State. One of the other retired players, she was taking a step back to be with family, and she suggested me, and I'm in the area. And so that's kind of how I started dipping my toe. I was absolutely terrified of public speaking. My first game, I was there like shaking the whole time because I was just like, did I study enough? Did I learn the players enough? Like, am I going to do this right or wrong? Am I going to get canceled? And since that day, I've been doing it for like the last 3-4 years now. And I really enjoy doing it. I like being able to stay connected with the Iowa State athletes and to stay involved with their games and everything. And it's been a great challenge because I think you should always lean into your fears so that you can come out the other side better. And so that was just like in tandem with Iowa State. My CKP athletics has kind of always been there. I fully established that when I retired, but I've always been doing stuff in the community and across Iowa. So I was doing, like when I was home, I would do some camps back in my small town or in different towns across Iowa. And so it just made sense to turn it into a business when I retired, and I had more time to contribute to it, whether that's through private lessons, small groups, or other stuff in where I was living. And so it's really just compiled with just like throughout the years, and ultimately led me to founding CKP Foundation this year, which is the nonprofit arm to my athletics company.
What inspired you to do the nonprofit side of the business?
Just providing access for athletes. And a lot of times the financial barrier is a big thing. So we offer like scholarships, we offer seasonal support for athletes that qualify and apply. And we're still building the airplane as we go. But we had these clinics last fall and winter that incorporated like not just the sports, but the life skills of financial literacy and mental health, because I think every athlete these days needs to be a well-rounded athlete or person. And a lot of those skills that aren't necessarily sports related are going to take them a lot further than their sport ever will. Not everybody's career is going to last as long as mine did. And when they ultimately step away, they should be able to be successful and confident in other arenas. And that's kind of my mindset behind like just creating a holistic, well-rounded athlete, so that like athletes like you and I don't like have to face as much of an identity crisis. And we know our talents and our God-given skills that can take us in a different direction, whenever that may be.
Yeah, I think that well-roundedness is so important. What really wasn't an emphasis when we were playing, at least that was my experience. It was kind of like, oh, if you can afford mental training outside of your sport.
Mental health.
I know. Then, yeah, you can go do that. But it really was not a focus at all. Like,
no, not me either.
Yeah. So I think like teaching the new generation of athletes those skills early on is going to prevent that identity crisis, or it's going to at least help. Like maybe it won't prevent it, but you're going to know who you are outside of the sport, or know that your value isn't necessarily all in one place. Yeah. And just handle life a little bit better. I absolutely love what you're doing. I think it's really cool. So I'm glad we got to touch on that a little bit. I know we don't have a ton of time left, so I have a couple more questions that I want to ask you to hang around. I do want to ask you, you became a new mom recently.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about that and how your identity has maybe shifted into this new role, and maybe if your definition of success has changed a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I will unashamedly, I don't know if that's a word, but I never really dreamed of being married or having kids before this until I met my husband. And I'll say that my goals I was very selfish. I was going after my dreams of playing basketball, and I didn't dream of anything really outside of that. I wasn't that girly girl that was dreaming for this moment. But now that I'm a mother, I'm like, I get it. I'm like, I get it. My little squishy, my Tyson, my little guy that I created, he's amazing. And all the highs and the lows are worth it. And now that I have him, he's my little person. And to see my husband and the way that he has reshaped and the way he takes care of both of us, it's really cool to see the different, you become a whole new person. your husband becomes kind of like a whole new person too. And you get to see like the best parts and the worst parts of each other during this time. And it brings you together. And I think that like people will be like, what surprised you most about motherhood? And I'd be like, it didn't surprise me most, but like just seeing how much my husband loves our little guy, it has been so cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, moms are amazing. That's one thing. I don't have children yet, but I like to focus on this on the show because it is you're a complete person, right? Like you have your career journey, you have your athletic journey, and then sometimes you have this new journey of being a mom, and that impacts you as a whole person. And I think it's important to know that, like, from what I've learned from my guests and you, is that life does change a little bit, but you're still able to have goals, and maybe those goals just look a little bit different, and your definition of success just looks a little bit different in those chapters.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Pregnancy was a huge like different season of life. It was kind of a purgatory state. And so just like God putting you in like a waiting period until you're able to meet your little guy, and not being the athlete that you used to be, and being able to do all the exercises and things that you used to be able to do. But I think as athletes, or having to even just a little bit of that athlete background sets you up for success in pregnancy and motherhood, because you still want to be active. You still want to work towards goals and things. And that made my pregnancy and my delivery, not to get too graphic or anything, so much easier. I think being an athlete has made motherhood and all of those little things. Like I get a little competitive. I'm like, I'm going to keep working out till as long as I can as possible. And I think it's only benefited me.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that mentality. And I think like as an athlete, you're a little bit just like predisposed to do hard things. So when you're like, okay, I've done tough things, like, yes, this was challenging, but I don't know. We just put ourselves in these positions, I think, to get uncomfortable on purpose, because, it's going to shift your boundaries of your comfort zone. It's going to make you more resilient. And, that from everything I've learned through mothers, it sounds like that is the common theme of that chapter as well.
Yep. Keep doing hard things.
I love it. You've worn so many different hats, Chelsea. You're a COO, broadcaster, founder, you're an investor in League One volleyball as well. How do you approach this season of life? Like, do you have a specific, like, this is my identity, or does that just constantly shift for you depending on where you are?
That's a great question. I think my identity ebbs and flows, and it's adaptable and fluid. And I think that's totally fine. I think sometimes we are told, especially as women, that we can only be one thing, or even just in other people's frames of mind, they want to categorize you and label you into one thing. And when they can't, they get frustrated. And for me, like I've never been able to put myself in a box and only say that I am one thing, like I am only an athlete, or I am only this or that. I think it's very important for us to be able to label ourselves as multiple different things, even if other people might not be able to understand it. Because at the end of the day, all the things I'm involved with are very aligned with who I am and what I care about. And even if, as you like list things off, like all those like women's sports, caring about athletes, caring about like marketing and personal branding and identity, all those things are very in line with who I am. So in my mind, I see it perfectly, even if other people don't. And I don't think young girls should have to compartmentalize themselves for other people or only dream one thing. You should have multiple dreams of who you can be and the things you can tackle, because you should, even at our age, feel unstoppable and be able to do whatever, dream a different dream and be whoever we want to be. And the dream doesn't stop at our playing career.
I absolutely love that. I think that's amazing advice. You are not designed to fit into one shiny box. You can be multiple things across multiple different chapters of your life too. I love that you don't have the fear to constantly reinvent yourself, because I think some parts of our society tell you should have that fear. And a lot of people do have that fear. And so I think that you've broken outside of that is so aspirational.
And it's not to say that I haven't had those fears. Or like you'll understand this. Like, it's going to be scary to do things you've never done before.
Yeah.
It's not that the fear isn't there. It's just that you lean into it.
So true. Like you said, you took the color analyst position and you were shaking.
We do things terrified.
Yes, you just do it terrified. We were joking at the beginning before we started recording today. Like, I pity my initial guests on this show, and I probably should have them back. You're scared and things are unfamiliar, and you're laying the path as you walk it, and that's scary sometimes. But there's only one place to go from there. I think it's up. So
yeah.
I love
and
it.
podcasting is a whole other world.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But it's been amazing having you here. And this is like, I'm so grateful that I got to have this conversation with you today. I'm grateful for everyone that's going to learn from this recording today, or conversation, excuse me. But final question of the show, I ask everyone this at the end, just because the namesake of the show is changing the game. So I just want to know what changing the game means to you in this chapter of your career or season of life.
I would say leaving things better than we left it. I consider myself like old and busted, and I don't really consider myself like an athlete this day and age, but I have this conversation with other retired players who maybe get upset with like the NIL or where sports has gone. But if it's not better than when we left it, we're doing it wrong. And so changing the game to me ultimately means creating opportunities and empowering the next generation in a way that we couldn't even fathom for ourselves. And I think that starts with like the foundation and creating athletes who are much more well-rounded in all the skills and able to be successful in other arenas, and giving back. And so like, I guess it goes in tandem with the clinics I did this fall. We called it Pass It Forward, just continuing to pass it forward, reach down, help other people, get their goals, and continue to look for mentors and people who are able to uplift you and inspire you. It's a constant evolving relationship and finding your people.
I love it. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for your time today. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn, Chelsea Poppens, or on any of my social media. I think my Instagram is at Chelsea Poppens. So pretty easy.
Amazing. And they need to tune in to champion this podcast.
And champion this podcast with Brianna Salvatore-Duick and me.
I love it. Yes, got to get the plug in at the end. Thank you so much for your time, Chelsea. Had a great conversation with you, and I am excited to continue to keep up with your endeavors in this career, whatever happens next.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been awesome.